Have you ever thought that some places don't really belong to this world, but are trapped between two realms? Places where even the air trembles with every breath, and every shadow hides something unspeakable. Places where night is no longer just night, it becomes a doorway to another world. These stories aren't fiction, they're real. These are 10 haunted places in Texas that locals say are as deadly as death itself if you visit after dark. If you're truly brave enough to hear the truth, then subscribe right now, because what you're about to hear will change the rhythm of your heartbeat forever. You'll remember these stories in the lonely, silent nights, when it feels like someone's watching you. So get ready, because we're going to those places in Texas where not humans, but spirits breathe. Story 1. In the south of Texas lies a desolate desert, Marfa. During the day, it's just another quiet town. But when night falls, everything changes. The sky, the land, even the silence. The locals call them the Marfa Lights. Mysterious orbs that appear in the sky with no source, changing colors, then vanishing without a trace. Some say they're spirits. Others claim they're aliens. But whoever has gone to see them up close was never the same again. In 1972, a young couple, Josh and Catherine, drove there. They were fearless, curious, and full of life. Around 2 a.m., they took their car deep into the desert to witness the lights for themselves. The air was eerily calm when suddenly, a green glow appeared far on the horizon. Then another, then 3. Josh laughed. Maybe it's just headlights? But in the next moment, the car engine died. The atmosphere grew heavy, as if the earth itself had stopped breathing. Catherine looked out the window. The light was now closer, circling them like something alive. Inside it, shadows moved, not human. Catherine opened the door and stepped out, but her feet didn't touch sand. It felt soft, weightless, like she was standing on air made of light. Josh screamed, "Come back!" But in the blink of an eye, she was gone. By morning, police found the car exactly where they left it. Doors open, engine dead, but both of them missing. Only their footprints were seen in the sand, ending halfway into nothing. No clues, no bodies, no end. Even today, locals say that if you stand in the Marfa Desert at night, you can hear a woman's voice whispering, "Josh, come back." And those who follow that voice never return. Some believe the couple still exists, trapped inside that mysterious light in another dimension, a place from which no one ever returns. Story 2. In the Texas town of Yorktown stands a building that looks ordinary from the outside, but inside, there is no life, only the echo of death. This is the Yorktown Memorial Hospital, once a place where patients were treated, now a place where only restless spirits wander. Built in the 1950s, this hospital slowly turned into a space where pain became permanent. It's said that over 2,000 people died here, but the real number is unknown. Some claim that many who were brought here were never even registered, as if they were never meant to live. At night, whispers seep through its walls. Doors open by themselves, footsteps echo across the floors, and sometimes, the laughter of a child can be heard, even though there are no children there. In 2013, 2 YouTubers, Adam and Lisa, decided to spend a night inside. They entered with cameras, and for hours nothing happened. But when the clock struck 3, the main door slammed shut on its own. Adam felt something standing behind him. When he turned, an old nurse's uniform hung from a hook, gently swaying, though there was no wind. Lisa whispered, "Did you feel that?" And at that exact moment, their recorder picked up a faint voice, "Get out." It wasn't heard by their ears, only in the camera's audio. They tried to run, but the exit was locked. Then, something cold, wet, and firm gripped Adam's shoulder. He spun around, but there was only darkness. When they finally got out the next morning, burn marks covered their hands. Reviewing the footage later, they saw, for just a single frame, the silhouette of a woman in a nurse's uniform. Her face was blurred, her eyes black and hollow, like an endless void. Locals say she was Sister Mary, a nurse who died in 1961, but still checks on her patients. In 1990, when workers tried to demolish the hospital, they claimed a dark, blood-like liquid began oozing from the walls. The next day, One of the workers was found dead in his truck, eyes open, frozen in sheer terror. After that, no one ever touched the building again. Even today, if you stand quietly outside the hospital, you can hear a faint voice from inside whispering, "Help me." And if you dare to step through its doors, you'll feel it. The cold breath behind you, the unseen presence by your shoulder, gently whispering, "Stay." Story 3. In the heart of Mineral Wells, Texas, there stands a building that still holds screams trapped within its walls. The Baker Hotel. When it opened in 1929, it was a symbol of wealth, music, and joy. Film stars, politicians, and the rich came here to dance, laugh, and live without care. But the death of one woman changed everything. She was beautiful, always seen in a red dress, and was said to be the secret lover of the hotel's owner. Her room was on the 6th floor. Almost every night, she would stand by the window, a glass of wine in her hand, staring into the emptiness outside. And one night, she jumped. Some say it was suicide. Others whisper it was murder. But even today, a faint red glow flickers from that room. People who visit the 6th floor say a strange scent fills the air. At first sweet and floral, but within seconds, it turns into the stench of decay. In 2005, a group of young explorers decided to spend a night inside the abandoned hotel. They were sitting in the darkened lobby when footsteps echoed from above. "Let's go check," one of them said. As they climbed the stairs, a woman's whisper floated through the air. "Why are you here?" The voice was so close, it felt like it was right by their ear. They turned around, nothing. When they reached the 6th floor, the door to her room slowly creaked open on its own. The room was empty except for one thing. On the wall, written in what looked like blood, were the words, "She never left." One of them said, "Do you smell that perfume?" Everyone nodded, and then the scent rotted into something foul. From the corner of the room came the sound of someone breathing. They panicked, tried to run, but the door slammed shut. Then, a soft voice whispered, "Stay." By morning, when they finally escaped, their bodies were covered in deep scratches, as if torn by nails. When they checked their video footage later, they saw her, standing by the rooftop window, a woman in a red dress, hair flowing wildly, unmoved by the wind. Her lips moved. "This is my home." Locals still say that on full moon nights, she can be seen standing on the roof, staring out over the town. But those who dare to meet her eyes fall into a dream from which no one ever wakes. Story 4. In a quiet corner of Arlington, Texas, hidden behind thick trees, stands an old bridge that locals call the Screaming Bridge. And if you ever dare to step onto it after dark, you'll understand the horrifying truth behind that name. During the day, it looks like any other bridge. But once the sun sets, the atmosphere changes. The air grows heavy, the trees stop moving, and even the sound of the flowing water below disappears, as if something is waiting. It's said that on a cold night in 1961, a tragic car accident happened here. 6 teenage girls were driving back from a school event when their brakes failed. The car plunged off the bridge into the ravine below. The police recovered 5 bodies, but one girl's body was never found. Some say the river took her, but the locals know she never left. Years later, a group of friends heard the story and decided to spend the night on the Screaming Bridge. They were laughing, smoking, joking in their car, but as they got closer to the bridge, all their phone signals vanished. The headlights dimmed. One of them joked, "Maybe she's watching us right now." Everyone laughed until they heard it. Tick, 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 like fingernails tapping on metal, coming from underneath the car. The driver killed the engine, got out, and looked beneath the car, nothing. Just silence. He got back in, tried to start the car, but the engine was dead. Then, suddenly, a fog began to spread across the rear window, like someone breathing from the outside. And in that fog, words began to form. "Help me." Their faces turned pale. One girl screamed, "Let's go." But the doors wouldn't open. They were trapped inside. Then, from beneath the bridge, came a scream, sharp, violent, and so real it made their ears ache. One boy started crying. The headlights flickered on by themselves, and in that dim light, they saw her, standing in the middle of the bridge. Long hair, white dress, face completely black. She slowly raised her hand and pointed straight at the car. The air around them grew hot, like sitting too close to fire. The river below shimmered, not blue, but red, like blood. Then, all at once, silence. Everything stopped, and just as suddenly, the car started again. The doors unlocked, and they sped away screaming into the night. When they reached town, one of the boys had deep red marks around his neck, like someone had tried to strangle him with cold, sharp nails. When they checked the car later, the rear window still had a handprint. Small, delicate, unmistakably that of a young girl. Locals say that if you go to the bridge at midnight, turn off your car, and sit in silence for 3 minutes, you'll hear her scream from below. And if you're truly unlucky, she might come to see you. A few years ago, a photographer went to capture the bridge at night. When he developed the photos, one image showed a figure standing behind him. A girl in a white dress, hollow eyes, mouth open in a silent scream. The next morning, that photographer was found dead in his home, his face frozen in terror, as if he had seen something no human should ever see. They say the girl still waits for her friends to come back. Every night, she screams because no one ever brought her body home. And if you ever find yourself near that bridge, no matter what happens, never look down, because those who do often never come back. Story 5, Galveston, Texas. A beautiful seaside town of blue skies, golden beaches, and the soft scent of salt in the air. But behind that scent hides a place called Hotel Galvez, a grand building that looks like paradise for tourists, yet holds within its walls a story so tragic, even the light seems afraid to touch it. The hotel opened in 1911. They say a young woman named Audra used to come here to wait for her lover, a sailor who had promised to return from sea and marry her in that very hotel. Audra stayed on the 5th floor, where she would stand by the window every day, gazing out at the ocean, waiting for his ship. Dressed in white, her hair flowing in the sea breeze, her eyes filled with hope, she waited. But one day, the sea turned violent. A storm hit, and word spread that her lover's ship had sunk. Audra's world shattered. She locked herself in her room, tied a rope, and ended her life. 2 days later, the sailor returned alive, only to find her gone. On the wall of her room, written in blood, were the words, "I waited for you." From that day on, Hotel Galvez was never the same. Guests reported hearing footsteps on the 5th floor at night. Doors rattled by themselves. Curtains moved when there was no breeze. And sometimes, faint sobs could be heard in the dark. People who stayed there claimed they felt a soft touch on their shoulder, gentle, loving. But when they turned, there was no one. In 2010, a newlywed couple spent their honeymoon there. In room 501, the very room where Audra took her life. Around midnight, the wife woke up and saw a woman on the balcony, wearing white, swaying softly in the air. She woke her husband, but when they both looked, the balcony was empty. Yet the floor was wet with tiny drops of salty water, as if the ocean itself had entered the room. Some guests say a woman visits them in their dreams, beautiful but unbearably sad. She sits beside them, touches their forehead, and whispers, "He never came back." Then the dream ends. The hotel staff have tried to close off the 5th floor several times, but every night, the lights turn on by themselves. One new security guard, Miguel, once set up cameras to catch whatever was happening. At 3:12 a.m., the balcony doors opened on their own. There was no wind. Then, a faint white mist appeared, forming into the shape of a woman with tears on her face. She stood there for a few seconds, then leapt and vanished. When Miguel rushed downstairs, the floor was completely dry, but his shirt was wet, as if touched by damp, ghostly fingers. He quit the job the next morning. Even today, if you go to the 5th floor and stand by the window, whisper the name Audra softly, you'll hear a faint voice near your ear say, "He's still at sea." And if you're truly unlucky, you might see her. In her white dress, swaying gently in the air, eyes full of eternal longing, lips curved into a cold, heartbreaking smile. They say whenever a storm rises near the sea, the windows of Hotel Galvez swing open on their own, and a woman's song echoes from the 5th floor. Perhaps she still believes her sailor is coming home. Perhaps she's still waiting forever. Story 6. Deep East Texas. Dense forests, still air, and a long, haunting road, Bragg Road, known to the locals as Ghost Road. In daylight, it looks ordinary, but as soon as the sun hides behind the trees, the road transforms. Everything goes silent. No birds, no wind, and then the light appears. A white, dim glow materializes in the distance, drifting closer until it stops mid-road. Sometimes it's just a faint dot, other times a glowing orb. It's not from a flashlight, a car, or electricity, because it has no source. They say it's the spirit of a railroad inspector named Charles Bragg, who lost his head in an accident deep in these woods. His body was found, but the head never was. Now his spirit roams every night, lantern in hand, searching for it. In the 1950s, 2 hunters ventured there at night. They saw a light in the distance, like someone walking with a lantern. They called out, "Hey, who's there?" But the light didn't stop, came closer and closer. When it was just a few meters away, the air pressure shifted, their ears popped, and a burning smell filled the air. The light suddenly rose, hovering right before them. Within the mist, they saw a blurry face, eyeless. Both men collapsed. The next morning, searchers found them alive but speechless. Their tongues seemed frozen. The only word they could whisper was, "Head." But that's not the only tale. In 1992, a couple camped there in their car. The girl said, "Let's see if it's real." At 2 a.m., the forest was dead silent. The boy turned off the headlights. Moments later, a light appeared, directly in the middle of the road. It slowly drifted toward them. The boy laughed. "It's probably someone on a bike." But the light was hovering 3 feet above the ground. Then it changed direction and stopped right in front of their car. Suddenly, it split into 2 like eyes. The girl screamed, "Drive!" The car started, but wouldn't move. From the trees came faint whispers, dozens of voices murmuring words they couldn't understand. The light vanished. Then thud, thud. Someone hit the back window. They turned. Through the fog stood a headless figure holding a lantern. They finally got the car running and fled. But the next morning, when they looked at the car, the rear was covered in burned handprints. Even today, people visit Bragg Road at night to see the mysterious light. Some try to film it, but when they return home, the videos are corrupted. Others find a single message on their phone. "Turn back." An old man who grew up there once said, "The light doesn't just appear, it calls you, and those who follow it never look the same again." A police officer named Henderson once reported chasing the light during patrol. It grew closer at every turn until his engine died. He stepped out, flashlight in hand, walking through thickening fog. Then footsteps. Behind him, he turned, nothing. Then, a cold hand touched his shoulder. He spun around and saw it. A misty body, headless, with its severed head rolling on the ground beside it. He ran to his car, started it, and sped off. But when he glanced in the rearview mirror, the same head was sitting on his back seat, its eyes slowly opening. Henderson quit his job soon after. He said, "Bragg Road isn't haunted, it's cursed. The light doesn't call everyone, only those who are curious. Even now, if you go to Bragg Road, turn off your car and sit in silence. The mist will rise, and that lantern light will appear again, floating slowly toward you as if asking, 'Have you seen my head?' If you're brave enough, whisper one word, 'No,' then run. Because if you hesitate even for a second, you'll feel a breath at your ear, whispering, 'Then lend me yours.'" Story 7. Huntsville, Texas. An old town surrounded by dense woods, and in the middle of it lies a desolate stretch of road the locals call Demon's Road. In daylight, it seems ordinary, but as dusk falls, a strange heaviness fills the air. Birds go silent, the wind dies, and an eerie stillness spreads. as if the earth itself stops breathing. They say this road leads straight to Bolivar Cemetery, a centuries-old graveyard with weathered tombstones and forgotten names. But the real terror isn't in the cemetery. It's on the road that leads there, because anyone who's traveled it after dark has left something behind. Their sleep, their sanity, or their soul. In 1995, 3 friends, Jake, Morgan, and Eli, decided to spend the night on Demon's Road. They brought cameras, flashlights, and laughter. Jake joked, "If there's really a demon here, we'll see him tonight." Around 11 p.m., they drove down the narrow dirt road. The trees leaned inward like black, breathing walls. The moon was gone, the sky drowned in clouds. The air smelled of damp soil and burning wood. A few miles in, they saw something. A small boy standing in the middle of the road, his head bowed, bathed in a faint red glow. Morgan stopped the car. Jake rolled down the window. "Hey kid, you okay?" The boy didn't move. Eli shone the flashlight on him and froze. The boy had no face, just a hollow blur, as if his features had been erased beneath his skin. The engine sputtered and died. The boy's shoulders twitched. Then he began to float toward the car, feet never touching the ground. Suddenly, he vanished. Eli turned around. The boy was in the back seat, whispering near his ear, "Why are you here?" They bolted from the car, stumbling into the dark. The ground trembled beneath them, faintly, like something was crawling underneath. Jake spotted an old wooden sign on the roadside. Cemetery Road, do not enter after sunset. But they ran straight toward the cemetery gates anyway. The rusted iron gate creaked open on its own. The soil inside was damp, freshly disturbed. And then they heard it, whispers rising from the ground, calling their names. "Morgan, Jake, Eli." Eli screamed, "Let's go back." They ran for the car. But as they reached the road, the boy was there again, this time not alone. Behind him stood dozens of shadowy figures. Men, women, children. All with erased faces, smoke drifting from where their eyes should have been. They chanted in a strange, backward rhythm, their voices growing sharper until blood trickled from the friends' ears. The car roared to life and they sped down the road, but every turn looked the same. The same trees, the same shadows. Jake shouted, "It's the same road. We're stuck." Morgan turned pale. "Look behind us." Through the rear window, dozens of red eyes floated in the darkness, chasing them, not on the ground, but in the air. Finally, they burst out onto the highway. Dawn was breaking. Everything was quiet. But when Eli looked in the side mirror, he saw a burn mark shaped like a hand on his shoulder. The next morning, Morgan never woke up. His eyes were open, face frozen in terror. Jake later told police, "I still see that boy at night. He stands by my door and whispers, 'You came too far, now stay.'" Locals still warn travelers. Demon's Road doesn't just show you darkness. It shows you what creates it. Drivers passing at night sometimes find small burned handprints on the back of their cars, the size of a child's. And if you ever go there and hear a little voice say, "Play with me," don't answer, because the moment you say, "Okay," your face will never look the same again. Story 8. In the heart of Austin, Texas, stands the Driskill Hotel, a place often called the Pride of Texas. Marble walls, golden chandeliers, and the lingering perfume of the late 1800s fill its halls with old-world charm and stillness. But those who spend a night there say that the silence is only on the outside, because within its walls, something still breathes. The story begins in 1887, when Colonel Jesse Driskill opened the hotel. A wealthy man with an unsettling obsession, Driskill was said to have built the hotel by trading what was left of his soul. His family, they said, was cursed. Everything he created eventually fell apart. And soon, the Driskill Hotel became the latest victim of that curse. The first death came just 3 months after opening. A little girl, barely 4 years old, was playing on the grand staircase while her parents sipped coffee below. Suddenly, a ball rolled down the steps, and so did she. She died instantly. Since that day, they say the ball never stopped rolling. Around 3 a.m., when the lobby is empty, Guests hear a soft thud, 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 as a ball bounces down the stairs. It stops at their feet, then slowly rolls back up on its own. Years passed. Presidents and celebrities stayed there. Even Lyndon B. Johnson held his wedding reception inside. But some rooms always remained vacant, especially room 525. In the 1920s, two brides, abandoned by their grooms just days before their weddings, took their own lives in that room. One by hanging, the other by gunshot. Ever since, room 525 has never known peace. Guests claim they hear sobbing inside, and the faint sound of a woman humming while sitting before a mirror, applying makeup over a face streaked with blood. One guest, Laura, once complained to staff that a woman was singing in the next room all night. The receptionist replied, "Ma'am, no one else is on that floor." Laura insisted, "But I saw light under the door and footsteps." They checked the CCTV footage. The room was empty. Yet behind the door, something moved. A white dress and a ball bouncing over and over by itself. Some guests have run out screaming at dawn. They said, "We saw our reflection in the mirror, but it wasn't copying us. It smiled while we were terrified." One of the oldest maids, a quiet elderly woman, once said, "This place is alive." Every morning, she wipes away tiny footprints near the stairs, like those of a child playing with a ball. But moments later, they reappear. In 2012, a photographer captured a picture of an empty guest room. When he zoomed in, there was a little girl sitting in the corner. White dress, blue ribbons, a ball in front of her. Her eyes stared straight into the camera. He swore no one was there when he took it. Days later, he and his wife died in a car accident. Some guests claim that Colonel Driskill himself still appears in the lobby, sitting in a leather chair, cigar in hand, repeating the words he spoke before his death. "My dream will never die." And perhaps he was right. His dream still lives, but within it now dwell only nightmares. They say if you walk into the Driskill late at night, and the lobby suddenly grows silent, you'll feel a faint breath near your neck. A whisper saying, "Don't drop the ball." Then you'll hear something fall behind you. When you turn around, a dusty white ball rolls toward your feet. And if you're foolish enough to pick it up, your reflection in the mirror will smile before you do. Story 9, Yorktown, Texas. A small town, yet right at its center stands a building that is neither alive nor dead, suspended somewhere between life and decay. The Yorktown Memorial Hospital, built in 1950 to heal the sick, soon became a house of death. The number of corpses rose so high that people started calling it the House of Lost Souls. It shut down in 1986, but even today, it breathes the same unease, the same stench, and the same whispers that made it infamous. They say over 2,000 patients died there, some from illness, others by their own hands. But strangely, many of them never left. Because inside this hospital, time doesn't move forward. It circles endlessly. In 2014, a group called the Paranormal Seekers of Texas went there to investigate. They carried cameras, audio recorders, and night vision equipment. The moment they stepped inside at midnight, the ground beneath their feet creaked, like the floor itself was crying. The first room they entered was the emergency ward. Broken beds, rusted instruments, and dried stains of blood still on the walls. Within the first minute, their recorder captured a faint whisper. "Help me?" They pressed on. One door read, "Surgical room." It opened by itself. Inside, a thick fog lingered. On the table lay a nurse's mask, fresh drops of blood still glistening on it. As the camera flash went off, a shadow appeared on the wall. A woman in a nurse's cap, holding a syringe. But when the light faded, she was gone. "Did you see that?" Ryan whispered. From behind him came a quiet voice. "Yes, Ryan." But no one from his team was standing behind him. Moments later, a scream echoed through the corridor. They ran toward it, only for a door to slam shut in their faces. They tried to open it, but something or someone was holding it from the inside. Then suddenly, a syringe rolled out from under the door. Inside it was fresh blood. They decided to leave, but the hospital began to twist and change. Hallways stretched longer, walls seemed to close in. They stumbled into a room filled with broken crosses, scattered on the floor. On one wall, written in faded red letters, were the words, "Forgive us, Sister Marie." Later research revealed that Sister Marie had been the head nurse in the 1960s. Known for her cruelty and fanatical faith, when patients screamed in pain, she would whisper, "This is the price of your sins." One day, after a young boy died in her care, his father cursed her, "May this building be your grave. May you never leave it." Since then, her spirit has been trapped within these walls. People say if you walk through Yorktown Hospital at night, you might see her. A woman in a white nurse's uniform, holding a syringe, slowly moving toward you. Her face hollow with empty black pits where her eyes should be. And if you dare to get close, you'll feel a freezing sting in your veins, as if she's injected something straight into your blood. One visitor later said, "I didn't see anything, but when I got home, there was a small needle mark on my arm. For 3 nights, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard a voice, 'Next patient, please.'" Even today, when the wind blows, the hospital's windows slam shut by themselves. And if you press your ear against a door, you can hear footsteps pacing inside. Tick, 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 like a nurse still making her rounds. Some have seen a strange green glow flickering from the windows at night, as if a machine has come back to life. Then comes the scream. No one knows what happens inside, but everyone who's been there says they never leave the same. They say if you ever call out, "Sister Marie," inside Yorktown Memorial Hospital, she will reply, "Injection time." And if you laugh and say, "I'm not sick," the next day you'll find a small needle mark on your arm. And if you're lucky, it'll be just one. But if you're not, your scream will become one of the many still trapped within those walls. Story 10, Mineral Wells, Texas, a quiet little town, but right in its heart stands a wounded giant, the Baker Hotel. When it opened in 1930, it was the crown jewel of the South. Golden doors, marble floors, chandeliers that dazzled the eyes. Staying there was said to be like living inside a dream. But soon, that dream turned into a haunting. The first story tied to Baker Hotel belongs to Colonel Baker himself, the man whose name it bears. They say he was blinded by wealth and pride. He risked his marriage and reputation for a beautiful dancer who lived on the 6th floor of the hotel. Guests often spotted her standing by the window, dressed in red, a glass of wine in her hand, her eyes filled with longing. But one day, that image shattered forever. The woman fell from her balcony. The police called it suicide, but staff whispered, "We saw another shadow in her room that night." Since that day, her room on the 6th floor has never been warm again. No heater, no sunlight, no fire. Nothing can chase away the cold. Those who spend the night there claim that around 3 a.m., the door slowly creaks open. A woman in a red dress glides in, floating through the air. She seems to be searching for someone. If you're asleep, you might dream that someone is caressing your cheek, and a faint whisper brushes your ear. "He promised he'd come back." When you wake, the room carries a scent of old wine and broken promises. In the 1950s, a hotel manager reported that one night, while sitting in his office, the elevator started moving on its own. The doors opened empty. Then came a soft female voice, "6th floor, please." He shut the elevator down. The next morning, his body was found on the 6th floor. Some say the Baker Hotel isn't just haunted, it's alive. His breath moves with the wind. If you listen closely, you can feel a pulse in its walls. And sometimes you can hear your own name whispered back to you. One paranormal investigator, Daniel Cross, decided to spend the night to find the truth. Around 2 a.m., his recorder picked up faint laughter, a woman's voice. Then the words, "Don't go to the pool." The next morning, Daniel explored the basement and found an old swimming pool. The water was pitch black, thick like oil. When he shone his flashlight into it, faces floated beneath the surface. Dozens of them, still lifeless, but all staring straight at him. He tried to run, but every door was locked. Then came a chilling voice, "You're already checked in." When he finally escaped at dawn, his clothes were soaked with muddy water. The last thing his recorder captured was a whisper. "Welcome to Baker Hotel. We never let our guests leave." Today, the building still stands. Empty, broken, and silent. Windows shattered, doors rusted. Yet every night, a dim light glows from the 6th floor. And sometimes, if you stand across the street and look up, you'll see her. A woman in red, glass in hand, smiling that frozen, dreadful smile. They say if you ever lock eyes with her, you'll hear footsteps behind you. But when you turn around, no one will be there, because she's already followed you home. Candle, and thus ends the tale of the 10 true haunted places of Texas. So the next time you hear a whisper in the dark, or feel a cold wind near an old building, remember, some stories never end. They simply wait for their next listener.